Hey guys, this is Ethan here with All Talk from Jeddz, and I'm here to give you guys the rundown of UFC 238 from this past weekend. Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. Let's get started. Let's start off with some prelims. I got the fights right here in my lap. Hold on. Alright, the first fight I'm going to go over from the prelims is Katlyn Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood. Good fight. I'm going over this one because it was pretty much a number 1 contenders fight for the flyweight title held by Valentina Shevchenko. Solid fight. Calderwood got off with some mean Muay Thai in the first round, and I thought the rest of the fight was just going to go that way, you know, but in the second and third round, man, Chookagian really showed what she was made of and came back and kind of won the fight with just basic 1-2s, and that outside leg kick did some damage to Calderwood too, so good for her. This was the first time I seen Chookagian fight, and I've been paying attention to Calderwood since she won the Ultimate Fighter, so I was impressed. Alright. Oh, next fight, Eddie Wineland. He came back after a pretty long layoff. I've been a fan of him since he debuted in the UFC. I didn't really watch a lot of WEC, so that Scott Jorgensen fight where he just mollywopped Scott Jorgensen, man, dude's been a savage for a while, man. He's a guy that when I see him on the card, I get a little more giddy for the card, you know. He's pretty long in the tooth now, so we don't really know how much longer he's got, but like I said, I'm going to enjoy him as long as he's here, man. Alright. And I'm going to go ahead and skip the other prelim fight or fights because as far as I know, they don't really have any relevancy toward rankings, so like I said, we're going to skip those. But on to the ESPN prelims, we got Calvin Kattar versus Ricardo Lamas. Both guys top 15 guys. Obviously Ricardo Lamas, former title challenger, perennial guy in that division, you know. Kind of slipped off the past couple years, but he's still a guy that's fun to watch. Calvin Kattar, I've heard a lot about him through the forums and stuff like that, but the only fight I ever got around to seeing of his was his fight with Renato Moicano last year. That was on the Khabib and Iaquinta card. He lost, but we all know Moicano's a savage if you've seen him fight, you know, so you can't really judge him off that. But to this fight itself, he absolutely murked Lamas, man, and even before he murked him, he was showing off good solid punching form, good movement. The setup he hit Lamas with to end the fight, the fake of the 1 and then hook off of it with the 3, I don't know what's next for him, but Lamas is a pretty big win for anybody in that division, so now I think about it, you could probably put him and Yair Rodriguez together. That'd be a pretty solid fight from what I've seen of both of those gentlemen. That'd be a pretty good one. Alright. Ooh, this was a fun one. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso. Karolina kind of like in the same boat as Ricardo Lamas as it pertains to the women's strawweight division, you know. Perennial girl, former title challenger, just couldn't get past Joanna at the time. Alexa Grasso, though, I've seen a couple of her fights, and like she has good solid hands, but like the main fights I've seen from her, the Felice Herrig fight, she just didn't get the win. I've seen the Tatiana Suarez fight, and just like every other girl that's facing Suarez right now, she couldn't get past the grappling. So I don't know, I was kind of saying, Karolina will probably get the win here, but Alexa will probably get some stuff off. No, not at all. Alexa Grasso came out, and this is probably some of the better hands I've seen from a woman in women's MMA period at the moment, especially of all time. She tuned Karolina Kowalkiewicz up, like put an absolute clinic on her. I don't know what's next for her. I still think she might struggle with some of the grapplers in that division, like the champ Jessica Andrade or Tatiana Suarez again, any of those girls, but from what she showed Saturday night against Carolina, she'll probably give anybody fits in the stand-up department. Her boxing is just off the charts for that division, even compared to a girl like Rose. Rose would probably win that, but it would be more from mixing everything up, punches, kicks, takedowns, you name it. But yeah, Alexa Grasso, definitely one to watch out for if she can keep everything going. Also to mention, she did almost get the guillotine off at the end too, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Next fight we got is Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz. Pretty fun fight between two top 5 guys at the 135-pound weight division. Pedro Munoz coming off the big KO win over former champ Cody Garbrandt. So he came off the KO win over Cody Garbrandt. And Sterling, outside of his loss to Marlon Moraes about a year and a half ago, I would say, he's looked pretty solid a little bit before that and every fight since. Like, even before that Moraes fight, he tuned out the ghost of Renan Barão, which doesn't really say much, but he looked solid there technique-wise, and ever since he lost to Moraes, he's still beating pretty good guys like Brett Johns and those guys. So, yeah, this was a fun fight. I'm surprised at how aggressive Sterling was here, because Pedro Munoz is a guy known for being dangerous when it comes to that close range, like firefight, or even just catching a submission out of nowhere, even on the feet. Like, he choked out. He's had a couple submission wins from standing, so you never know with him. And Sterling in that first round, he just pushed the pace on him and just touched him whenever he could with his hands, his feet, everything. Man, he's got some really good kicks for that division. He couldn't really keep up the pace as well in the second and third, but he did all right. He's got the win, obviously. Came out with the unanimous decision, and this probably sets him up for a title fight or a contender fight, but we'll get to that later on, as obviously the main event was the 135-pound title fight. In the last prelim fight, we got Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff. Man, the fight was alright. Once again, they're both two top 5 girls in the weight class. That's pretty much a theme for the prelims. These were some pretty good prelims, guys. Suarez, she had all the hype coming into here, coming off the Carla Esparza win, so it was pretty warranted, but anything less than spectacular or finish here was going to get some harp on it. So, yeah. Nina did good, you know. I didn't expect her to do as well in the grappling as she did, but she did pretty good at stifling a lot of Suarez's offense and even frustrating her a little bit from what I saw. This probably sets Suarez up for probably a title match with Jessica Andrade if they don't put Rose in there again, but I kind of hope they put Rose in there, because from this fight, I'd like to see Suarez get maybe one more fight in before they chuck her into the title fight. And that's just me personally. I don't know. We'll see what happens. On to the main card, we got Tai Tuivasa versus Blagoy Ivanov. This was pretty much your meat and potatoes heavyweight fight right here. Both guys hurt each other. Both guys tired out. And in the third round, they were both kind of sucking for win, and ultimately Blagoy got the unanimous decision win. I remember reading a Jack Slack article about a year ago before one of his fights in Australia. Tai Tuivasa, he's got a lot of like upside for a guy at heavyweight, and even after his current streak right now, he's now on a 2-fight losing streak. I still see a lot of upside to him. I just hope he gets past whatever is physically or mentally like blocking his potential, because I see a lot of potential in him. But as far as Blagoy Ivanov goes, he got the win here, but even me being high on Tuivasa, I'm not like really like impressed with him. Like he kind of just goes out there and kind of grind. He either pot shots his way to a win with jabs and long range strikes, or he hugs his dude up against the fence. And I train and I appreciate the clinch exchanges, but I know as a fan, you're not really going to get that. You're not really going to get that far into in the main events and title fights with that kind of style. His claim to fame is a win over Fedor in Sambo back in 2008, but it hasn't really kept going. It hasn't really kept going in MMA for him. Yeah, I don't know what happens there. We'll see what happens next with those guys. The next fight, another 135-pound fight between Petr Yan and Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy Rivera, I watched him live in Cleveland against Uriah Faber a couple of years ago, and he tore Uriah Faber up, man. I think that might have been Faber's first loss in a non-title fight. I don't know, but yeah, man, I've been pretty high on Jimmy Rivera a little bit before he got into UFC, and then he got into UFC, and then he had that win over Faber, and it almost seemed like he was destined to get a title shot, you know. Got a couple more wins after that, but Marlon Moraes knocked him out, and Aljamain Sterling tuned him up a fight ago, so he might be destined for that gatekeeper role. And Petr Yan, man, he showed up, man. He's pretty slick just about everywhere, but here he really showed off his hands again, man. He's fighting guys like John Dodson and Jimmy Rivera, who are probably more explosive and athletic and powerful than him, but he's setting traps for these guys, man. He's really tuning them up, and the combinations he dropped Rivera in at the end of the first and second round, that's high level stuff right there, guys. So be on the lookout for him, because with how the main event ended up being, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a title contender fight for his next fight with wins over Dodson and Rivera. That sets him up pretty well for a top 5 of the division. Next fight, Tony Ferguson versus Cowboy Cerrone, the people's main event. This was always going to be the fight on the card as soon as they announced it. They announced it 4 weeks ago, which is pretty late for a fight card, but you knew this was going to be the fight. The guy fired the night bonus, all that good stuff, and yeah, it had the shot after the bell, but it didn't affect the outcome. I don't care what anybody says. Thanks to both of those guys, man. Like I said, they took it. Cowboy had just come off a 25-minute war with Iaquinta in early May, and for him to take a fight against Tony Ferguson in early June, that's a pretty tough turnaround, guys. Man, the conditioning and the wear and tear, and he was still able to go in there and get after it against Tony Ferguson, a guy who's probably on the best streak of all time right now, when you consider that he hasn't had a legitimate title to his name yet. Yeah, he had the interim title, and it was probably one of the more legit interim title fights too, but with how it's looked at right now, the interim titles are... But yeah, they gave us a very entertaining 10 minutes Saturday night, and wow. Now, with all that being said, though, barring any more catastrophic events in his personal life, and Khabib versus Poirier going on in September, Tony Ferguson better be in line for the next 155-pound title fight. When Khabib and Poirier happens, and after that's all said and done, and they announce the next title fight after that, if it doesn't involve Tony Ferguson, and it does, especially if it involves Conor McGregor, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'll throw a fit, but God, Tony Ferguson, like I said, I'm not trying to overhype it. That if you go up and down his resume, that is legit that's a title resume. And he hasn't had a legitimate UFC title, so that goes to show all the competition he's faced in the UFC, and to still not have a legitimate world title to his name. 12-fight win streak, guys, come on. 6 of those against top 10 and top 5 guys at the time. dude deserves a title fight next. Next fight, the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Eye. That was rough. I may be off on this. I was a little optimistic for Eye heading into this fight. I didn't have her winning by any means, but I thought she could have made it a tough fight for Valentina, you know. She's crafty. She was one of the first big signings outside of UFC for women's MMA back when she signed back in 2013. But yeah, I thought with her being around long enough and maybe being the bigger girl in there, bigger, stronger girl in there, she could have bullied Shevchenko up against the fence a bit and roughed her up a bit. But nah, that did not happen at all. As soon as I saw Shevchenko ragdoll her in I think it was the first minute of the first round, just ragdolled her to the ground with that body lock, I was like, yeah, this is not going to be a good night for her. I heard she was a minus 1,400. I heard Shevchenko was a minus 1,400 favorite going into this fight. I thought it was... I was giving Aya a lot more credit than that, but the way the fight turned out, it might have been spot on in hindsight because she ragdolled her in the first round with that body lock, almost got the Kimura at the end, and then in the second round set her up perfect with the body kick and then kicked her to the head that absolutely sent Aya's head into the bleachers of the arena they was in. She was down for a while after that too. That was a scary knockout, especially. That was a scary knockout for MMA standards, and then not to sound sexist, but even scarier for women's MMA standards. That was pretty rough. Honestly, I don't know what you do next with Valentina because before there was even a 125-pound division in the UFC's women, she was the number one contender at 135 pounds, and she did lose to Amanda Nunes the first time they fought, and then they fought the second time. I thought she should have got the nod, but it didn't end up happening. So it's going to take a lot for them to want to run that back a third time since she's 0-2 against Amanda already. Yeah, you could do Jessica Andrade. That'd be a pretty interesting fight. Andrade, she's probably got a bit more work to do at that 115-pound weight class with Rose rematch possibly happening, a Joanna rematch possibly happening, who knows? But at 125 pounds, I don't really see a lot of girls giving Valentina Shevchenko fits. All right, on to the main event. Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes for the vacant 135-pound title that TJ Dillashaw had to vacate due to testing positive for EPO. Little snake in the grass, but anyway, let me start off by saying I'm a Moraes fan. All right, I've been a fan of his since I first saw him on the debut show for WSOF World Series of Fighting, and he beat Miguel Torres at the time. I've been watching him since then, and when he got signed to UFC, I was like, this is going to be the guy that gives TJ or Cody or whoever was champ at the time fits. I picked him to win here, and I think he'll be back, but yeah, with all that said, congrats to Henry Cejudo, you know. To be on the wrong end of the first round like he was, that was a pretty bad first round for him. It looked like a vintage Moraes performance from his WSOF days with those leg kicks because those were nasty. Absolutely nasty, man. And for him to come back in the second like he did and then finish him in the third, it was just his moment, man. It's his time right now. It's been his time since he's thrown Mighty Mouse last year. He beat Mighty Mouse, who's the GOAT of the flyweight division, unquestionably. Then TJ moves down, and he beats him, and TJ's arguably the greatest of all time at the 135-pound division. I say arguably because we do got Dominic Cruz in that division still. Guys like Uriah Faber, but let that be. Yeah, Henry Cejudo, man. I won't say MMA GOAT. He's still got a long ways to go in the sport to build that part up, but combat sports, Henry Cejudo might be up there as far as one of the greatest of all time combat sports athletes of all time when you really think about it. Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, check. Champ in MMA, check. In his last two fights, his last three fights, he's arguably beaten two of the GOATs in the respectable weight classes of 135 pounds and 125 pounds with Mighty Mouse and TJ Dillashaw. So, yeah, man, it's just his time right now. Like I said, I still think Marlon Moraes will be back. I do see him getting that belt eventually, but yeah, like I keep saying, it's his time right now. It's Henry Cejudo's time right now. As far as what's next for Cejudo, I think he should probably drop back down to 125 pounds and defend against the winner of Joe Benavidez versus Jussier Formiga happening at the end of this month. Ideally, Benavidez wins that, and that sets up a rematch between Cejudo and Benavidez. That's Cejudo's unavenged loss, so yeah, that would be a good fight for the flyweight division. I'm still not sure if they're even keeping that division around, guys, but we'll see what happens there. And what if they do the flyweight title fight, this also gives the bantamweight division time to figure things out. I feel like some kind of combo between Aljamain Sterling, who fought on the prelims, Piotr Jan, who we discussed in his fight with Jimmy Rivera, Marlon Moraes, obviously, he's still in the mix, and maybe Dominic Cruz. It depends on his injury, how long he's going to be out. But yeah, whoever looks the best coming out of a combo like that would arguably would definitely earn the next shot at Henry Cejudo winning if he fights at 135 pounds again. He's fighting at 135 pounds again, whether or not they keep the flyweight division. But yeah, I think that just about wraps me up. Yeah, that's my wrap up of UFC 238, guys. Like and comment to get some discussion going, and subscribe for more videos and content. This has been Ethan from All Talk with Jeddz, and I will see you guys later. Andrade would be interesting, but I still feel like, what the hell are you doing? You a bitch, Jay. I really see a lot of girls giving Valentina Shevchenko fits. Jay, get the fuck out of here.